Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I have an interesting analogy for you on how to remember the CSS box model. So pretend you get a package from Amazon, right? So we've got our box. In this case, I'll just kind of open this so we can easily see. So in our box, we've got some content. In this case, some Magic the Gathering cards, pretty exciting. And we've got this padding, and then we've got our box. So with our CSS box model, our content goes inside the center, then we've got our padding around the content, and we've got our actual box, which is our border here, and then everything outside of the box, that's the empty space, right? And that's what our margin is in CSS. So going with that analogy, let's jump in and see how that actually works and looks. Let me share my screen. All right, so let's build a box. So we have a div of box, okay? And we created that, and we can't see anything yet just because a regular div, there's nothing to really see. It's just a division. So we need to add some styles to that box. So we'll come here, dot box, and we could add a background color. Okay, so now we still can't see anything yet, but the background color is applied. What we also need to do, we need to put something in the box too, so we can see it show up. So let's call this Magic Cards. Okay, so there's our box. But we want to make an actual box, so let's do a width, and let's do a height. Okay, now we've got our box with some Magic Cards in there. And what you can do on any element, you can go down here to the bottom, and you can see the CSS box model layout right here. So the 200 by 200, that's the size of our box. And then we've got the content, which is our Magic Cards. Then everything around it is our padding, right? Like the box we got from Amazon, it comes with padding typically, or you'd hope. But we don't have any padding here, so let's add some. 20 pixels of padding, okay, that added it to the box. Then we've got our border. Well, this one doesn't have a border, a border, so let's add that. And we'll just add 10 pixels so we can really see it. And then just give it color black there. Okay, so we can see how this is starting to shape up. And then we've got our margin. Now, by default, the div, since it's block, it'll display all the way across if we, uncheck these. Right? But so that's where the remaining margin happens. But let's add some margin so you can see how that actually works. So maybe we'll do 50 pixels of margin. Okay, so you can see how that gave spacing outside of our box, right? So this is important as we start to build our card layouts and such. Now, one other thing that's important to note with our box model is if we look at the size of this thing, come here and inspect. It's 260 pixels wide by 260 pixels tall. So why is that? Well, what's happening by default, we've got our width and height, but we're also adding padding here, and then we've got 10 pixels on each side of that. So if we do 20 plus 20 plus the 10 on each side, that totals 60, right? So if we were to add something called box sizing and say, I only want the width of this element to be as wide as the border box, now look what happens. Now we get that 200 by 200 pixels that we were originally wanting. So again, this kind of goes back to that CSS reset. When we roll our own, we can add this. Sometimes the CSS resets will have that, sometimes they don't. In this case, this one does not. And I always find as a beginner, when you're thinking, hey, how wide's my box? I told it was 200 pixels wide. It might not always be the case, so something to watch out for. We'll get more into that, but for this video, again, think about ordering your package. Your package is all bundled in nice padding, so that's all inside of your box. The actual dimensions of your box is your border, and then everything outside of it is your margin. So I hope that paints a nice visual for you when you're thinking of this. Especially as a beginner, it can be kind of hard to remember that. So that's one way that I like to remember it. Okay, well, I hope that helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.